around with Chicago Public Libraries for comments, and then I'll come back for questions. All right. So shootings and homicides are down in Chicago compared to last year, 2021. Shootings are down 17%. Shooting victims, the number is down 16%. And homicides are down 7%. Say that again. Shootings and homicides are down in the city of Chicago compared with last year, 2021. Shootings down 17%. Shooting victims down 16%. And homicides are down 7%. Chicago Police Department knows that one crime is one too many, and that our work is never done. We've continued our focus on the top 55 beats in the city, where more than half of the city's violent crime is concentrated. In those top 55 beats, homicides are down 26%, and shootings are down 34%. Since the beginning of the year, officers have recovered 5,594 illegal guns across the city. That's a 5% increase over last year's record 12,000 guns. Officers also made more than 2,500 gun arrests this year. Just want to highlight on Saturday at St. Sabina, we had our first gun turning of the year, and we collected more than 400 guns. Of that 413 were assault weapons. Each gun recovery, no matter how it's recovered, is a potential life saved. I want to thank Father Flager again for his collaboration and support. Our difficult and dangerous work during this national gun violence epidemic often comes with a very, very high price to Chicago police officers and their families. So far this year, 25 officers have been shot at or shot, 25. The two officers that were shot at several days ago, who were shot several days ago, were released from the hospital and they're at home recovering at this time. During this weekend, the city saw a decrease in shootings and shooting victims compared to the same weekend last year. Over the weekend, shootings were down 4% and shooting victims were down 24%. And the number of homicides remained the same compared to that same weekend last year. Citywide, our officers have taken 617 offenders into custody, this year for carjacking-related offenses. Still, more than half of our vehicular hijacking arrests are juveniles. And that's one of the challenges that we face this summer. We have to engage our young people and keep them active and involved in positive activities. On that note, this weekend, the police department and the Chicago West Side Sports Organization kicked off our Youth Summer Baseball League with a parade on the West Side. If you didn't attend, you missed something really special. Out on social media, we got some clips. The city also enjoyed Puerto Rican Festival and Parade, where Chicagoans and visitors came together to celebrate culture and community. I'd like to emphasize that the Chicago Police Department, Chicago Public Library, Chicago Park District, and the Department of Family and Support Services all have programming for our young people and young adults with a variety of interests. At the Chicago Police Department, the Police Athletic League and Arts League, Police Youth Explorers, Youth Advisory Council, and Cops and Kids with chess. For chess, bring your A game. Kids are really good. So that's what summer should be about. That's what summer should be about for our young people. Having fun together and providing safe spaces and mentoring. I'd like to run through a couple of notable arrests, if you don't mind, before we bring up Chris. Our organized retail task force made a significant arrest in a long-term investigation that they have been conducting into a crew responsible for multiple high-end purse robberies in the 18 districts. These are the smash and grabs. The Organized Retail Crime Task Force was actively seeking Tony, Simmons, when they learned he sustained a graze wound during a shooting that occurred June 11, 2022. Simmons was taken into custody and charged with felony robbery and aggravated battery against a peace officer for a retail theft that occurred in the 100 block of East Oak Street in January. He was also charged with possession of a stolen vehicle for a separate incident, as well as cited for possession of cannabis. I want to go over that again. So Mr. Simmons was already wanted for a robbery that occurred during a smash and grab on East Oak Street that happened back in January. He was shot recently, a victim of a shooting recently, and we were able to take him into custody and get him charged with the felony robbery and aggravated battery to a police officer during that retail theft that occurred back in January. He also was in possession of a stolen vehicle, so he got charged with that as well as the possession of cannabis. A couple of other notable arrests: 30-year-old Courtney Bertucci, B-E-R-T-U, Bertucci, B-E-R-T-U-C-C-I, B-E-R-T-U-C-C-I, was arrested June 6th by members of CPD and the Great Lakes Regional Task Force and charged with one felony count of reckless homicide, one felony count of failure to report an accident/death, and one felony count of possession of a controlled substance. Bertucci was arrested after being identified as the offender who struck and killed a 42-year-old male bicyclist on April 16, 2022, while driving in the 900 block of West Madison. An additional notable arrest: 27-year-old Jerome Halsey, H-A-L-S-E-Y, was arrested on June 5th, 2022, and charged with 2 counts of felony attempt first-degree murder, 1 felony count of aggravated battery, and a discharge of a firearm at a police officer, 1 felony count of aggravated assault, and discharge of a firearm. He was arrested after he fired shots at Chicago police officers conducting a traffic stop moments earlier in the 6900 block of South Sangamon in the 7th District. Our officer, as you all know and reported, has received a gunshot wound. With that, we'll have Commissioner Brown, come up with the Chicago Public Libraries, give us an update, and I'll come back for a few questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Superintendent Brown. As Sup said, good afternoon. I'm Chris Brown, Library Commissioner for the Chicago Public Library, and we're just really pleased to be here to talk about the opportunities for our youth this summer, specifically at the Chicago Public Library. We're also here because we believe there's a role for all of us to play in keeping our city safe through Mayor Lightfoot's whole of government approach to neighborhood safety. Libraries are neighborhood anchors, community hubs, and safe neighborhood spaces, especially during out-of-school time, where we support the interests of our youth, their opportunities and connection through our 81 Chicago Public Library locations. And for the first time this summer, thanks to Mayor Lightfoot, we're going to be offering library service 7 days a week at those 81 locations, a short walk, drive, or CTA ride away. Along with being the city's largest provider of free early literacy events and free broadband and computer access. So lots to do at your libraries this summer. Where we're providing a wide range of free programs, really focused on the interests of our youth through creative spaces, through their interests, resources, and stories. So if your kid wants to be the next Chance the Rapper, make sure to bring them by our U-Media spaces. We have 29 where Chance himself got his start at our open mic nights and in our recording studios. And if your kid loves the arts, we're bringing creative and cultural events into our neighborhood libraries through a partnership with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, as well as the Chicago Parks District. Really, these neighborhood resources and events will be available along with our summer meals offered at dozens of library branches. We've also been adding teen service staff to the 15 most challenging safety beats at those neighborhood libraries so that those kids can always depend on outreach and programming for teens. And now that the school year is coming to an end, we're back with our annual Summer Learning Challenge. This year's theme is City of Stories, where we're going to celebrate the people, community, and culture of our diverse city. City of Stories is a call to explore and amplify the power of our stories and our voices. Once again, participants this year will receive a free family pass to the Chicago Art Institute. And we want to thank our generous philanthropic support from the Chicago Public Library Foundation and civic groups who really make sure that all Chicagoans have opportunities to celebrate the stories of our diverse city. Of course, when you think about summer reading, you think about kids who are a big part of that program. And I want to take a moment to just talk about why summer reading is so important to our Chicago youth. We know that children can lose up to 3 months of learning during the summer, particularly in under-resourced neighborhoods. And thanks to an analysis by Chapin Hall at the University of Chicago, we know our summer program not only prevents summer learning loss, but actually has been shown to result in learning gains. Last year, Chicagoans read over 20 million minutes. We're hoping to surpass that this year. All our summer programs are free. You can drop in and visit your local neighborhood library for information on how to sign up and how to participate. Or visit us online at shipublib.org. We couldn't do this without our partners like the Chicago Public Library Foundation, the Chicago Park District, Chicago Public Schools, the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events, Jane Addams Hall House Museum, the Art Institute of Chicago, the American Writers Museum, Greater Chicago Food Depository, the Museum of Science and Industry, and YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago. As I said earlier, libraries like parks and schools are community hubs, which means that the people of Chicago are integral to us fulfilling our mission. And I want to make sure that everyone feels invited to visit their neighborhood library this summer to get involved and participate. Just while we're talking about opportunities for youth, I just want to make a plug for the new My Shy My Future app and enforce how vital it is that parents and teens this summer searching for opportunities, for job opportunities, download the app to learn more about opportunities for youth based on age, youth interest, and neighborhoods. And again, download the My Shy My Future app to connect with summer of opportunities. And with that, I'd like to thank you and turn it back over to Superintendent Brown.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.
Well, by the way, no relation, even though we're both Browns, if you were asking. So before we take a few questions, I just wanted to highlight we're going into arguably one of the most difficult times of the summer as we approach both Father's Day, Juneteenth, and then the following weekend it'll be the Pride Parade, and then the following weekend will be 4th of July. I just want to mention briefly Pride Parade. You may have questions about this, though we've heard obviously of the events of the planned attacks during one of the Pride celebrations. We've shored up our intelligence regarding our Pride Parade. We obviously have various plans on the ground for enough resources to manage the parade, but all the ancillary things that happen outside the parade. You know, we obviously have a great celebration. Oftentimes it goes into the street, a lot of late night drinking, a lot of fun. We just wanted people to do it safely. And we want our officers to be focused on not only the intelligence that they're hearing about what's happening in Chicago, any potential threats, so that we can have those addressed, so we can have anyone who might do harm to anyone there dealt with swiftly, constitutionally, obviously, but again, we won't tolerate any threats to the celebrations, whether that's Juneteenth, Father's Day, Pride Parade weekend, and our 4th of July weekend. We want everyone to have a great time in Chicago, and we have public safety plans to ensure that. With that, I'll take a few questions. Thanks.
Sure. Chris Hosh with NBC5. Yeah. Given the fact that you just talked about the Pride Parade, you know, what's unique about Chicago among other big cities it isn't just Pride Parade for us. It is Pride Fest. It is
Festivals, yeah.
Pride in the Park. It
Yep.
is Market Days in August, right? So we have multiple opportunities for potential bad actors to do whatever. So you kind of already answered the question, but I wanted to know, I mean, are you working with the FBI or Homeland Security? I mean, when we talk about these groups, they got 31 people
Right.
together.
Right.
I mean, up into the point where they were right outside of that event. Thank goodness for the person who called
Right.
from the hotel that they came from. So I just wanted to ask you, are you working with any other agencies when it comes to these kinds of threats for Chicago, not just for Pride, but throughout the year?
Right, so we do have our Chicago officers on the Joint Terrorism Task Force here locally, and they work directly with FBI and all other federal partners regarding any intelligence that we're hearing, any known persons that have been on our radar that, say, for example, are on any kind of watch list or any kind of list to be concerned about. So yes, we're working that, but we're also on the ground. I think the resources that we have in place need to be aware of the intelligence. It's one thing to know the intelligence, but for it not to be siloed with the JTTF, that it actually gets pushed down to officers on the street. So that's where our communication is really critically important, that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing on the ground. But also, I think this platform today is for me to put those who might be planning something on notice, that we are going to be vigilant to ensure that this event, as well as others, go off safely. And we'll hold you accountable if you're planning, if you're doing anything to jeopardize the safety of others. Chris?
Superintendent Charlie Wojciechowski, again from Channel 5.
Charlie.
Can you walk us through the events of this morning involving the officer who was squad car at Costa and Gladys?
Here's what we know now, and it's preliminary, subject to change, but here's what we know now. There was a call, and there was a woman, officers responded to, it was a woman laying in the street, unclothed. As the officers tried to seek and render aid to this woman, trying to figure out why she was laying in the street, she charged the officer, assaulted the officer, got in the squad car, took the squad car, drove off, had an accident. She was taken into custody. The officer was taken to the hospital with injuries. Early indications are that the officer was run over by this woman. The leg received some type of injury as well as a laceration to the head. So the officer's in the hospital being treated as we speak. We'll get more updates as we learn more. We don't know why the woman was laying in the street unclothed. We don't know the circumstances yet. All of that is under investigation as we obviously interview her and other witnesses who were there as we continue to investigate this particular incident. Not that we know of, but again, all this is preliminary. It's happening in the last, 30 minutes or so. Any other questions?
Do one more.
Yes.
On assault weapons.
Right.
You mentioned that you did take some from the event this morning at St. Sabina. Are you seeing more assault weapons in the weapons you're taking? Background checks for young people buying assault weapons.
Sure. We've seen an 81% increase in assault weapons recoveries this year compared to last. And last year we saw an increase. So this is very concerning to all of us in law enforcement and to the communities as well, that these weapons meant for war are continuing to be an increasing number that we recover and seize through our officers' efforts. And as it relates to the, fingers crossed, bill making its way to hopefully the president's desk to be signed, thank you. Better late than never. And finally, because what's happened in this country these last few years, I would argue decades, of just this gun violence epidemic. It's spiking these last couple of years, but there's been communities that suffered with gun violence for decades, over decades. And anything, instead of doing nothing, is much appreciated. In addition, we look forward to supporting whatever comes out of the Senate and out of Congress. Thank you. Appreciate it. Take care. Mm-hmm.